Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Today, the subcommittee meets for a hearing on the quality of the science being used by the Environmental Protection Agency. When I first read the title of the hearing, Improving EPA's Scientific Advisory Process, I felt encouraged that this would be an opportunity to explore areas of bipartisan agreement on how to improve an important federal agency. I'm sure that my colleagues agree that if and when there are problems in a government entity for which the mission is to protect public health and the environment, we should be steadfast in identifying any problem and work together to find meaningful solutions. According to the hearing charter, the purpose of this hearing is to receive independent scientific advice and testimony on draft legislation that seeks to strengthen public participation, improve the process for selecting expert advisors, expand transparency requirements, and limit non-scientific policy advice within the EPA scientific advisory process. All of these are good government principles that I support. Like many of my colleagues on the panel, I've heard from constituents who are frustrated with EPA decisions, EPA processes, or both. Many of those constituents tell me that what they need from the EPA is consistency and efficiency. On closer examination of the discussion draft of the bill, however, I noted that the provisions will not improve the Science Advisory Board structure or operation, but instead would likely limit the quality of scientific advice the EPA receives. These provisions appear to tie the EPA's hands by denying the agency access to a vast pool of our country's most expert scientists and researchers in environmental science and health. Last Congress, there was a very similar bill introduced, only the prior version contained a provision that would have resulted in many, if not most, scientists from academic institutions being eliminated from the EPA's scientific advisory boards and being replaced by industry-funded experts. I'm glad to see that my colleagues in the majority have eliminated that provision in this current draft. Although that provision is no longer there, other parts of the draft bill appear to do the same thing by eroding requirements that are in place under the Ethics in Government Act and by creating an unnecessary legal conundrum because of inconsistencies with the Federal Advisory Committee Act, FACA, under which thousands of boards, including the EPA's scientific advisory boards, operate and have operated since inception. To be clear on one point, and I trust that this is an area where my Republican colleagues and I agree, I am not opposed to industry-funded experts participating on scientific advisory boards or in the peer review process at the EPA. Their expert insight into processes in industry conduct can provide valuable guidance to an advisory body. That said, the Science, Space, and Technology Committee in the House of Representatives should not be putting forth legislation that undermines ethics requirements and other requirements that have governed thousands of advisory boards through the executive branch since 1972, with the end result being an overrepresentation of industry voices on the science advisory boards. EPA's science is tied to a mission to protect public health through environmental regulation. Scientific research, knowledge, and technical expertise are fundamental to EPA's mission and inform its regulatory functions. That need for expertise is exactly why Congress created advisory boards, such as the Science Advisory Board, to provide independent advice on the science, which in turn allows the EPA administrator to make sound regulatory decisions. I hope that instead of undermining the scientific advice EPA receives, we build upon EPA's scientific legacy. I hope we don't spend our time condemning American scientists and researchers simply because they are affiliated with research universities. And I want to note that under existing law, scientists already recuse themselves from activities that directly or indirectly relate to finding decisions that affect them. Besides, suggesting that American scientists and researchers are adversaries of good science is not good for our country. Before yielding back, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record several letters sent to the committee by various groups and individuals expressing their concerns about provisions in the bill. These letters are from concerned citizens, science and environmental organizations, and individuals within the scientific research community around the country. I look forward to the testimony today and the questions, and with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.